We are marking this event as an inception to introduce the objectives of this alliance, how the activities are going to unfold in the year, and how the stakeholders and engagements will be continued in the research activities and the advocacy that we are going to pursue throughout the year. And we thoroughly encourage all the partners and the stakeholders in the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor to engage with us and support us through this process. To begin with, I would like to invite our esteemed guest, Senator Mr. Mushaid Hussain Sayed, for the welcoming remarks, and we shall begin with the further proceedings. Thank you, sir.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of the Almighty, the Lord of all mankind. Good morning, Assalamu alaikum, and ni hao to the Chinese guests. Your Excellency, the Acting Ambassador, Madam Phang, Her Excellency, Senator Simi Ezdi, who is the Chairperson of the Parliamentary Committee on Climate Change, other distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure for me to be here on this platform to launch an important initiative which affects the lives of millions of our people living in Pakistan and the region. And in fact, I would say globally, because in today's world, climate change is one of the central issues affecting the quality of life and the livelihoods of people, not just in our region, not just in the third world, but also humanity as a whole. And I was very fortunate, along with other friends from the Parliament and the Sdpi, to be at the Glasgow meeting, COP26, which frankly wasn't that big of a success because a key area where we need support is climate finance. And that was not forthcoming. The commitments that were made in Paris were not implemented by the time we met in Glasgow. We hope that when we meet later this year, inshallah, in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt, perhaps some progress would have been made. When we talk of climate change, let us look at this region. Let us look at Pakistan. Pakistan is one of the top 5 most vulnerable countries on climate change. And I'm glad that finally the Parliament also of Pakistan is taking leadership on this issue. I'm also a member of the Climate Change Committee headed by my colleague, Senator Simi Ezdi. And I would like to inform the distinguished guests here that in 2014, I was then also a member of the Climate Change Committee. I took the initiative to have the first public hearings in the Pakistan Parliament on climate change. And we also developed, with the help of a German foundation, the first media manual on the environment and climate change, which we distributed because we have to sensitize parliamentarians also, policymakers also, decision makers also, because like the United States, like Trump and his followers, there are many climate change deniers here also. They feel this is not the central issue which affects. And you can see that in South Asia, and Madam Phang is aware of that because she's a specialist on the region, you have 2 different countries. Maldives, comprising islands, had a cabinet meeting underwater to focus on the challenge of global warming, that if it continues, they will cease to exist as an island. Nepal, which is landlocked, had a meeting high up in the Himalayas because melting glaciers is a major threat to them. And Pakistan has both a coastline also, as well as high mountains. And you can see that in the last 20-25 years, we have had about over 150 freak weather incidents, whether it's flash floods or forest fires, or at a time 10 years ago, 11 years ago, 20% of Pakistan was underwater in 2 provinces, Sindh and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. And only last week, Simi Ezdi and also the minister was there, Shari Rahman Saiba. We went to the Murgla Hills National Park regarding these issues of the forest fires. So these are areas we personally climbed that mountains. It was about 5,000 feet. And I must say, your committee, CME, is fighting fit because all of us managed that climb and that heat also. So we went up there to see where the damage has been done and how to mitigate that damage, because a lot of the fires are man-made and some of them are environmentally driven. When we talk of Cpec and China, I would like to first mention also something about China's role in that. I was fortunate, along with Mustafa, the executive director of the Pakistan-China Institute, that we attended the second Belt and Road Forum, BRF, which was in April 2019. And it was inaugurated by President Xi Jinping. And what was the theme of that? Towards green development. This was April 2019, the Belt and Road Forum. And after that, the Chinese government announced that there will not be any more coal-fired plants being invested by China overseas. That has been done. And then China has also kept its commitment, which they made in Paris, and also which was reaffirmed in Glasgow. So for Pakistan also, I think that there is now been that awareness, and the previous government also took a number of important initiatives, apart from the 10 billion tsunami, and also the commitment that 30% of Pakistan's energy by 2030 would be renewable energy, clean energy. So it's important to understand when we talk of greening of the Cpec, that this is not an issue confined to governments, the governments of Pakistan or the governments of China. This initiative has to be people-centric and driven by public opinion, which includes Parliament, which includes, I'm glad NGOs like the Sdpi have taken that initiative. PCI is also part of that initiative. And it's also, we have to involve the local communities. Unless this kind of troika is there, the government, people, and the local communities. And here I think that we should take this forward. The time is right for that, because this threat is now something which is now paramount. And as chairman of the Defense Committee in Parliament, I also mentioned, and I said this in GHQ also, I said it in the Islamabad Security Dialogue also, the time has come to revamp, to revise, and to redesign Pakistan's notion of national security. It can no longer be measured in terms of military might alone, that we've got a standing army, we have got F-16s, we've got tanks, we've got missiles, we've got the atomic weapons. No, it has to be focused on human security. And human security demands issues like climate change, food scarcity, water insecurity. It includes population planning. These are the areas where we have to take this initiative forward. And I'm glad that after what we did, the national security policy of the previous government mentioned this issue. And I remember when I was, we had interaction with the military brass, even the army chief focused that these are the issues that matter for the people of Pakistan, including climate change. So that awareness is there. And I finally like to say that we also took a delegation of mine to Siachen, which is, and we went about 17,000 feet above sea level, which is the highest battleground. And there also we proposed that the presence of troops, India and Pakistan on Siachen Glacier, is affecting the ecosystem of that area. And you can see that there was a, in Gyari in 2012, there's a huge avalanche which killed hundreds of soldiers and civilians. So these are issues, and Atabad Lake is a consequence of that natural disaster caused by climate change. So in order to alleviate those consequences, I think there has to be a whole of society or whole of nation approach to take this forward. I'm glad that the Chinese government is fully on board. I'm glad that the Pakistan government, irrespective of which party is in office, is fully on board. And I think that this people-centric initiative, which Sdpi and the Pakistan-China Institute are launching this morning, will become a focal point to take these initiatives and to put pressure on the policymakers in parliament, and also to promote awareness among the people of Pakistan that the issue of climate change is one that affects the lives and livelihoods of the people of Pakistan and the future prosperity of the region. So I thank all of you for coming to this initiative, and I especially thank the Acting Ambassador of China, Madam Pang. I know you're very busy on other security issues, but this is the issue of human security, about people and people's lives and livelihoods. And I'm very glad that Senator Simi Ezdi, she's a very dynamic chair of the Climate Change Committee, and she has injected new vigor and, as the Americans say, new zing in the issue of climate change in Parliament. Good luck to you, Madam. And we'll take it forward through good teamwork and homework, inshallah. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for this.
Thank you so much, Honorable Senator Mushahid Hussain Saab. To begin with, just a little introduction of our esteemed guests who have joined us to give the special remarks on this occasion. I would like to invite Ms. Pang Chun-shui, who is the Acting Ambassador and Deputy Chief Mission of the Chinese Embassy of Pak in Islamabad, to please, Madam, come on the stage and have a seat. Yes. We are also very fortunate to be joined by Ms. Simi Ezdi, who's a Chairperson, Senate Committee on Climate Change. If I could request you, ma'am, to please come up on the stage. May I also request Mr. Gong Da Hui, Secretary General, All Pakistan Chinese Enterprises Association, APCEA. So if you could please. Then we are also very fortunate to be joined by Mr. Chang Chun, who is the CEO of China Three Gorges Corporation. So if you could, please. And we would also like to welcome the two panelists who have joined us online. Mr. Mohammad Aurangzeb, who is the CEO of Habib Bank Limited, and Dr. Hassan Daudbert, who is the CEO of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa Board of Investment and Trade. So I would like to welcome to all the panelists who have joined us on this gracious occasion and marking this event as one of the major launch that we are doing in this space. I would also request Mustafa to kindly please join us on the stage before I begin with the special remarks and keynote speech by Ms. Pang Chun-shui, Acting Ambassador and Deputy Chief of Mission at the Chinese Embassy in Pakistan. Please.
His Excellency Senator Mr. Mushahid Hussain Said, Chairman PCI, and Her Excellency Senator Madame Simi Ezdi, and Mr. Mustafa, and my dear colleagues from the Chinese business community here, and ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, good morning and assalamu alaikum. It is my great honor to be invited today to this very important event of the Inception meeting of the Green China-Pakistan Economic Corridor Alliance and exchange views with all of you here on the major topic of green development of the Cpec. I would like to thank the Sdpi and the PCI for their efforts in preparing for the establishment of the Green China-Pakistan Economic Corridor Alliance and for holding this meeting. This is a very useful platform for gathering wisdom from all walks of life and jointly promoting the green development of Cpec. I would like to take this opportunity to express my heartfelt thanks to the guests and the people from all walks of life in China and Pakistan for their efforts and contributions to promoting the construction of Cpec, and wish this meeting a complete success. Nearly 9 years after the Belt and Road Initiative was proposed, 144 countries and 32 international organizations have signed cooperation documents on joint construction of BRI. The BRI has become the world's largest international cooperation platform. In recent years, in order to implement the high-quality joint construction of BRI, China and BRI partner countries have jointly proposed a series of new initiatives and measures, such as building a healthy, green, and a digital Silk Road. President Xi Jinping announced at the general debate of 76th session of the United Nations General Assembly that China would step up support for other developing countries in developing green and low carbon energy and would not build new coal-fired power projects abroad. The BRI promotes the construction of green infrastructure, the development of green technology, and the green finance. In the first half of 2020, China's investment in renewable energy sector in BRI partner countries have exceeded that in the fossil energy sector. China has promoted the establishment of the Belt and Road Initiative International Green Development Coalition, jointly launched the Belt and Road Green Investment Principles and the Green Development Partnership Initiative with partner countries, and the step up promoting the construction of the Green Silk Road. The World Bank believes that the construction of a convenient transportation network under the BRI can shorten the transportation time and reduce pollution. The Cpec is an important pilot project of the BRI. In April 2015, President Xi Jinping paid a historic visit to Pakistan, opening a new chapter in the construction of the Cpec. With joint efforts of both countries, the Cpec has been continuously enriched in its development and construction. Now it has established 11 joint working groups, including long-term planning, water port, energy, transportation, infrastructure, industry, socio-economic development, agriculture, science and technology, security, international cooperation, and the information technology industry. Now Cpec is steadily moving towards high-quality development. Energy sector is one of the fastest and the most fruitful areas of cooperation under the framework of Cpec. Clean energy projects such as hydropower, wind power, and solar power have always been the focus of cooperation between China and Pakistan. In recent years, the cooperation between the two countries in the fields of clean energy has been continuously strengthened. At present, 5 wind power projects have been completed under Cpec, with a total capacity of 300 megawatts, and 1 300 megawatt solar power project has been completed. As Cpec enters the second stage of high-quality development, the proportion of green energy projects will continue to increase, which will increase the proportion of hydropower generation in Pakistan. On May 25th, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif paid a visit to the Karaj hydropower plant, saying that the plant, the first hydropower investment project under Cpec, would provide Pakistan with clean and cheap electricity and promote the green development of Pakistan. After the project enters commercial operation, it will add 320 megawatts capacity to the national grid. After the project is put into operation, the average annual power generation will be about 3.2 billion kilowatts. The Suki Kinari hydropower project under Cpec has a capacity of 874 megawatts. It is progressing smoothly and is planned to be put into commercial operation by the end of this year. The three imported coal-fired power plants under Cpec that have been put into operation, Sahiwal, Port Qasim, and China Power Hub, are large capacity power plants, each of them having a capacity of 1,320 megawatts, and all use cleaner and more efficient supercritical technology. All sewage and wastewater from the plants are recycled and reused with zero discharge, far exceeding the environmental protection standards of Pakistan. Ladies and gentlemen, the BRI aims to build a better life for mankind and achieve green and sustainable development. It also focuses on building a community of life between man and nature, and has launched a series of green action initiatives such as green infrastructure construction, green energy, green transportation, and green finance. Building a fair and reasonable global environmental governance system through ecological and environmental cooperation is becoming a feature of the BRI. We should strengthen cooperation, promote the high-quality development of Cpec, pay more attention to the fields of industry, agriculture, information and communications technology, improve export competitiveness, increase Pakistan's exports and the tax revenue, and achieve sustainable development with better production capacity. We should also jointly respond to the Belt and Road Initiative International Green Development Coalition and strengthen cooperation in green infrastructure, green energy, green finance, and other fields, so as to inject new impetus into the construction of a green Cpec. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam Pang, for your very comprehensive policy statement on greening Cpec. Now we will proceed to the session, which has a lot of distinguished guests from Pakistan and China. I'll give a short introduction of the guests who are part of this session, and then we can proceed on to the dialogue. We are joined by the Secretary General of the All Pakistan China Enterprises Association, Mr. Gong Da Hui, who is representing the consortium, the conglomeration of the companies of China which are present in Pakistan. And this is a new association which has had a lot of impact in community service, in engagement with civil society, with local stakeholders, and it represents the Chinese companies which are working in Pakistan. So we are very happy to have you here. Thank you very much. We also have my dear friend, Mr. Jang Jun, who's the Vice Chairman, Executive Vice Chairman of the All Pakistan China Entrepreneurs Association. And he is also the CEO of the China Three Gorges Corporation, which, as many of us know, is the leading Chinese enterprise in the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor and is a leading player globally in the energy sector. The China Three Gorges, ladies and gentlemen, has been in Pakistan much before the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor and has vast investments in renewable energy in Jimpir and Thatta. In the wind corridor, they have 2 to 3 wind power projects there. And then they have a lot of hydropower plants in Pakistan, which are also part of Cpec. For example, Karot hydropower plant is developed by China Three Gorges in Azad Jammu and Kashmir. And it has a 15% stake of the International Finance Corporation of the World Bank and 15% of the Silk Road Fund. And 70% is of China Three Gorges South Asia Limited. So thank you, Mr. Jangjun, for coming and for investing in Pakistan and transitioning towards green investments in Pakistan. And of course, Kohala, which is also part of Cpec, is being developed by China Three Gorges. Then we have the leading bank, HBL, which is pioneering in business with China. It has also a branch in China. And we have Mohammad Aurangzeb Saab. Thank you for joining from Karachi. And also we look forward to your remarks, because when we talk about green development, the prerequisite to green development is green finance and lenders, the role of lenders and how attractive their proposals can be for partners who need to borrow and set up projects, green credit, green finance. So banks have a very major part of this. So we look forward to your remarks as well. On the outset, I just want to share that Pakistan-China Institute and Sdpi have taken this very important initiative, which is in lieu of the policy by President Xi Jinping, as Senator Mushahid said, in the Second Belt and Road Forum, and the government of Pakistan, of greening the development in both respective countries. And because Cpec is a flagship project, an example, great example of cooperation between these two countries, I think it is important to reflect the policies of Beijing and Islamabad in this project. PCI and Sdpi are actually founding members of the Green Development Coalition, the BRI Green Development Coalition, which was established in the BRI Forum. And I have the honor of also being the advisor to the Green Development Outlook of the Ministry of Environment and Ecology of China, which they requested me to be 2 months ago. So, and one of the key things of this project and of this plan is that it's high time that maybe there's a joint working group on green BRI, on greening BRI also. And I think that that would really institutionalize this green cooperation because there are different joint working groups within the JCC of Cpec. And I think in order to materialize the policies of Beijing and Islamabad, which are already there, the consensus is there, but to institutionalize this on a working level, I think it is important that if we have a joint working group on greening Cpec, I think that would tremendously expedite these efforts. Now I would like to invite Mr. Gong Da Hui, the Secretary of the All Pakistan China Enterprises Association, for his remarks.
Your Excellency, Senator Mushahid Hossain Saeed and Senator Sami SD, Your Excellency Ms. Pang Chunxue, Acting Ambassador Pakistan to China to Pakistan, distinguished guests, friends, Assalamu alaikum and good morning. My name is Gong Da Hui. I'm from Power China Group, and I also serve as Secretary General of All Pakistan Chinese Enterprise Association. Today, I'm honored to be here and make a remark on the green and sustainable development of Cpec. Actually, I have a small presentation. On January 5th this year, 2022, All Pakistan Chinese Enterprise Association released the first edition of the report on the sustainable development of Chinese enterprises in Pakistan, in collaboration with Pakistan-China Institute, especially in Cpec projects. Green is the background color of the One Belt, One Road initiative. Cpec is a pilot project of One Belt, One Road initiative. With the joint efforts of Pakistani and Chinese, the Cpec now is implementing the concept of green and sustainable. It helps deepen the China-Pakistan economic and trade cooperation and promote the long-term development of global ecological civilization. The APCA yearly sustainable report summarizes and demonstrates that Chinese enterprise uphold and consistently practice this concept of green. From 4 aspects: green and low carbon, corporate social responsibility fulfillment, people-oriented concept, and value innovation. Let me take some examples. In power cooperation field of Cpec, the projects conducted by Chinese enterprises strictly abide by international and Pakistani standards on environmental protection. The standard is even higher than the World Bank standard. Several big power plants were awarded for the honor of outstanding contribution to environmental protection by National Environment and Health Association of Pakistan, which is a member of the United Nations Environmental Protection Program. For instance, in Port Qasim, Karachi, Power China thermal power plant had secured that all industrial wastewater has been treated and recycled and had zero discharge to the ecology, which greatly save freshwater resources. And in renewable energy sector, China's carbon peaking and carbon neutrality goals were unveiled by China State Council for fighting the climate change challenge, which are in line with Pakistan's vision of vigorously developing renewable energy and achieving energy independence. Chinese enterprises actively embrace the carbon reduction policy and continue to invest in the field of green energy sector. To date, Chinese enterprises have invested in large-scale hydropower, wind power, solar, and other clean energy projects in Pakistan. The installed capacity of clean energy projects that have been completed or to be completed this year totally are 2,304 megawatt. In hydropower sector, the Karot 220 megawatt hydropower station, the Suki Canary 884 megawatt hydropower, and Kohala 1,124 megawatt hydropower are invested and under construction by Chinese companies under Cpec umbrella. Chinese enterprises also take part in the construction of other mega hydropower projects, such as Damir Basha Dam, Dashu Hydropower, and Muhammad Hydropower, Tabila Hydropower. These large-scale hydropower projects at clean, efficient, and stable power will greatly improve power generation efficiency of national grid. Furthermore, it will significantly contribute to the transformation from thermal power to renewable energy to realize the ambition of energy independence. Now, Chinese companies are helping Pakistan's vision of clean energy strategy become a reality. In wind power sector, by the end of 2021, Pakistan's wind power project in operation have reached capacity of 1,436 megawatt. Total 19 wind farms were installed, and another 10 wind farms, 510 megawatt, is under construction. Among them, Chinese enterprise actively take part in this green energy campaign, invested 5 wind farms. All these investors operate the project in accordance with high-level international standards, providing new technologies, new ideas, new investments to develop clean and renewable energy. It is estimated that by 2025, the installed capacity of new energy project, only wind and solar, will account for 10% of the installed capacity of power generation in Pakistan. This will highly reduce the emission of greenhouse gases. All in all, under the guidance of Cpec framework, Chinese enterprise in Pakistan fully adhere to the concept of green, environmental friendly, and low carbon development. Develop and construct resources such as coal mine, malls, power stations, hydro, wind, solar, based on indigenous energy endowment, and expand cooperation in the fields of green hydrogen energy and electric vehicles. Innovatively carry out third-party cooperation and jointly carry out market development, invest and financing, and O&M with equipment suppliers, financial institutes, international investors, build regional harmonious community for joint development and a shared bright future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gong Dahui. And we look forward to working very closely, continuing to work very closely with APSIA in this project of Green Cpec, because APSIA has a very important role to play. The Chinese enterprises are a very important part of the solution as we move forward to the green transition in Pakistan. I'd like to invite my dear friend, Mr. Zhang Jun now, the chairman of the China Three Gorges Corporation, for his remarks.
Thank you, Mustafa. Your Excellency, Senator Mushad Hassan Sayad, and Ms. Pang Chunxi from Action Ambassador for Chinese Embassy here, and other guests. It's my pleasure to share some ideas here. Today, I want to take this opportunity to share 3 points with our friends. First is I want to take this opportunity to introduce the Three Gorges international business and the world business in Pakistan. Actually, maybe you know that China Three Gorges is the owner of the China Three project. This is the biggest hydropower plant in the world. It's about 22,000 megawatt in one place. This is the biggest in the world. After this completion of the Three Gorges project, we will also develop other hydropower plants in the world. Now, the Three Gorges already achieved about 100,000 megawatt totally capacity. This is one of this is the clean energy. We only have the hydropower plants, solar or wind. We are also the biggest renewable energy in the world. So actually, I think this is a good opportunity for China, for Three Gorges come to Pakistan to invest here. Just like Mr. Mustafa mentioned, we are the first company to come here to invest in the energy before the Cpec. Our wind farm, first wind farm in Karachi is already put in operation in 2014. After that, another two is already putting up operated in 2018. So just 3 days ago, your Excellency Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif just visit our Karot. This is also our up to now is the first hydropower plants invested by Chinese company in Pakistan. Its version is will be putting operation income in this month. Now actually 3 units is already working, and another one is already completion or installation and in the last stage for commission test. So version, I think 5 million people will use the clean energy from the Karot. It's we are covered to I think most Istanbul and Rawalpindi minimum. Yeah, this is very good news for us. Actually, Srikaji also invested so many clean energy in all over the world. Just like we have invested wind farm in Germany, we have in some offshore wind farm in England, and we have also so many investors in Portugal, in Brazil. We have got a very good profit from various countries. But unfortunately, in Pakistan, we just didn't got any profit. But anyway, we come here is with our President Xi Jinping to invest here to solve the energy crisis of Pakistan. This is our how to say vision to solve the energy crisis in that time in 2015. I think this is I was also in the delegation in that time. This is the first point I want to take this opportunity to share what we do, three gadgets. The second is that I also want to take this opportunity to introduce about the Cpec energy project. Just as Mr. Mustafa mentioned that I was the chairman for World Chinese investment for energy in Pakistan. Actually, I can see that if we can, because there are some different ways about that coal-fired power plants invested by Chinese. But you know, I started my job in Pakistan in 1998. Where the Pakistan people is suffered for this shortage of the electricity for so many years. The Cpec started constructed that coal-fired power plants is due to that construction period of the coal-fired is very soon, sometime only 1 or 2 years. So in that time, I think this is right decision. Nobody know what will happen for today's coal will be 400 US dollar per tons, and nobody know there were the crisis between Russia and Ukraine. So now I think after 1 or 2 years, when the coal price is go down, I think the project in just like Sashwar or some will contribute to the stability of the power supply of Pakistan. This is the first stage. We should solve that shortage of the electricity. The second stage is that today's topic. We should provide the cleaning and green the energy for our Pakistani friends and people. And we have one figure in my mind that more than 50% of the investment from China in Cpec is the clean energy. I think just like mentioned, Karot, Kohala, Suki Krari, and other wind project, solar project, just mentioned in this Monday by your Excellency Shahbaz Sharif, Prime Minister. I said that we should develop more solar power plants and wind power plants. I think in the near future, the Chinese company under the Cpec will provide more clean energy for the friends and people of Pakistan. This is some information I want to share to all of us. The third point, I want to take this opportunity to, because of today we discuss for investment, substantial investment. I want to share some idea because I worked for this country before 24 years. I know what the problems, what happened here in last 24 years. Actually, one day before 3 years, our ambassador, Mr. Yao, asked me, he told me, he asked me why there is no so many Chinese investors come to Pakistan. What's the reason? I said, there are 3 problems. This is my opinion, it's not him. I said, first is that if somebody want to invest in one country, he first have the security must be safe. This is a problem due to that border between Pakistan and Afghanistan, Iran, or some others. So this security is the first factor they should concern. The second is that they should have very stable electricity supply. Any manufacturer, any person, if want to invest in one country, they must have the very stable electricity supply. You know that time in 2015, I remember very clear, every day in Istanbul, even, we were shut down the electricity more than 10 times. Now every day 3 times, maybe something like that. But it's still not stable because for some steel, some manufacturers cannot stop the electricity in even 1 second, then will be finished. This is the second. So stable electricity supply is most important. The third, I said the business cost must low. I discussed with the Prime Minister last week when we come back from the Carrot. I said there, he asked me, it's possible to give the tariff of the solar power to 2.5 US-cents. I said it's impossible in Pakistan because here all the any kinds of the cost is much higher than on other countries. So we should ask the government to find a way to decrease the business cost. Otherwise, I think investor they were investing in other countries like Vietnam, Thailand, somewhere. If we're found where the business cost is low, yeah, this is I think the business cost is also including that the electricity price is the most important price for any investor. So the fourth, I said, this efficiency and the consistent of the policy must be stable. Chinese investor and other investors complain that sometime the government changed the tax 1 day or 2 days, something like this. It's also make the world investor very nervous. I think this is also very important. If we have this we saw these 4 problems in Pakistan, I think so many investors will come. But I just mentioned that is that why I mentioned that you can see the stable and the cleaning and the cheap electricity is very important for other investment in Pakistan. This is the 3 points I want to share with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jangjun. And thank you for investing in Pakistan. And we look forward to China Three Gorges trailblazing in green investments, further green investments in the future, as you've done in Jimpir and in Thatta and all over the world, in China and in other countries. And we also look forward to learning from your strategies, techniques, and experiences in green investments and in also the green transition which has taken place in China and how we can learn from that and apply that in Pakistan. Now I would like to invite the CEO of Habib Bank, Mr. Mohammad Aurangzeb, for his remarks.
Thank you, Mustafa. Senator Mushaid Saab, Abid Sulaini Saab, Greatly appreciate the kind invitation. My sincere apologies for not being able to make it in person because of commitments here in Karachi. But it's an absolute pleasure to be here at this forum. As Mustafa mentioned, HBL's association with China and Cpec goes way back. As the leading bank in the country, in Cpec Phase One, we have been closely associated with projects close to $7 billion in terms of either structuring, advising, or financing. And as we know, Cpec Phase One was very much in the context of building the infrastructure. And some of our clients are actually sitting here in the audience today as well. When it comes to Cpec Phase Two, which was all around monetization of what happened in Phase One, and while it hasn't gone at the speed as it should have gone, but to the extent we could help out and assist, we have, for example, in Rashikai SEZ, where the concession has been signed with CRBC, back in 2019, we had signed an MOU with CRBC to open a branch in Rashikai, which I'm pleased to say we have. So we will continue to step up in all the aspects around Cpec. Now, because of our association there, today we are very fortunate to be dealing with close to 150 plus Chinese corporates in Pakistan. We have close to 10,000 Chinese individual accounts being served by our bank. And we have roughly 15 to 16 Chinese bankers who are in Islamabad, in Karachi, in Gwadar, who are serving these clients. So, this is what we've been doing in Pakistan. But, I just want to mention, since Mustafa talked about our presence in China, we have been in Urumqi for a while, and we are extremely grateful to PBOC and ICBRC and other regulators in China for allowing us to open our branch in Beijing last year. It's a very, very monumental thing for us, very important milestone for us as we claim that China is our second home market, because I know a number of banks have applied to have their presence in Beijing, and they've been waiting for some time. So I'm extremely proud to be now present in Beijing, and as I said, grateful to the Chinese regulators. Now, what that has allowed us to do, our presence in Beijing, is to not only work with Chinese SOEs and POEs back in Pakistan, which is our backyard, but on all those countries which are part of BRI, but where Chinese banks are either not present or don't have significant presence. So it will be countries like Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Maldives, Oman, parts of East Africa, like in Kenya, etc. So I think, from that perspective, our association with China and Cpec, we are very, very proud of that, and we are taking it forward. Senator Mushahid Saab, I think through you, I do want to, congratulate Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and Minister Ehsan Iqbal, who's taken the initiative of meeting all the Chinese companies. Not only going and visiting the projects, but I know, the meeting that was held even a couple of days back. And Senator Mushahid Saab, as you know, I had the distinct pleasure of being in one of your previous forums where I had mentioned, some of the basic stuff, right? Is hygiene 101. It's not only about, the IPPs getting paid, but the business visas being converted into work visas, right? Because unless that happens, it's very difficult for the Chinese workers here to officially remit their salaries back to the country. So it's very, very pleasing to see that this administration has taken that in stride, and are taking it forward on a, as whatever Punjab speed or Pakistan speed basis, inshallah, going forward. Now, coming to the topic at hand, which is around green financing and green Cpec. Now, as the largest bank in the country and a DSAVE, we are very committed to ensure that climate-related risks are properly managed. So we have made a public commitment of reaching net zero by 2030. As part and parcel of that, we are phasing out coal financing, and it will be phased out totally by 2030. And we are reallocating all those financing resources to renewables. So we heard hydel, we heard solar, we heard wind. So a number of projects which have been already financed in the last 2 to 3 years, and we have a very strong pipeline, including with some of our Chinese clients, and we are very committed to continue to provide financing in the renewable space. Another point that I want to mention, which I think was a very important milestone in country's journey towards green financing, was the inaugural green Eurobond, which was issued by WABDA last year. And again, we were very fortunate to be co-managers along with JP Morgan at that inaugural green bond, which amounted to roughly $500 million. But at that time, the investor appetite was huge. This bond was oversubscribed 6 times. So the overall demand was actually $3 billion, and WABDA decided to pick only $500 million. And I think this was a landmark initiative, which will open doors for Pakistan to green investors in international debt capital markets. Obviously, there is a little bit of hiatus at the moment, but inshallah, as the country gets back into the fund program, the international debt capital markets, and especially the green investors, will be coming back to the country in a big way. And again, we have a lot to learn from China's experience in this space, because in a very short span, China has now at the world stage, roughly 40% of the green bond issuance today is coming from China. And as a country, they achieved it in a very, very short span of time. Now, a couple of other things, and then I'll stop there. That in 2019, in the Cpec conference, which President Xi Jinping was hosting back in 2019, and I had the good fortune to be in Beijing at that point in time to sign the green investment principles in Beijing. And there were 27 global institutions who signed those, and we are the only Pakistani bank which are signatories to the green investment principles. Now, it includes 7 principles and at 3 levels. There's strategy, there's operations, and innovation for greening investments in the Belt and Road space. Then I also attended the Goa Forum for Asia annual conference. This was roundtable on financing carbon neutrality, and we again had the distinct pleasure of presenting the country and our own strategic initiatives in the last 12 to 18 months. The last thing I want to mention is our ongoing engagement with Dr. Majun. He's, as we all know, the founder and president of the Institute of Finance and Sustainability in Beijing. And we are very grateful to him that he's advising us as an institution on the common ground taxonomy. And this is going to be a very, very important step because we all talk about green finance and green investments, but the underlying pillar to that is having the green taxonomy principles. I thought Dr. Murtaza from State Bank was going to be here today. I mean, normally the central bank will take the lead on this, but we are happy to take the lead on this. And at some point in time, we would like to join hands with the State Bank of Pakistan, because unless we get the green taxonomy principles embedded in everything that we do, then it will be difficult to scale up all of these initiatives. Once again, Senator Mashahid Saab, I'm grateful for the kind invitation. Thank you. I'm sorry, Mustafa, I can't hear you. Maybe it's
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Thank you.
Ji, I was saying that we look forward to continuing to engage with you and your office and the HBL as we proceed with greening Cpec and our other initiatives. And we look forward to seeing you in person also in the future.
Inshallah.
Now we will proceed to a short PowerPoint presentation that we have made on the greening Cpec initiative, just to give in a nutshell of what this is, what its aims and objectives are. And I will be giving the first half, and then I'll hand it over to my colleague, Hina. Hello. Jay? Acha. So, firstly, why did we make and establish the Green Cpec Alliance? What is the reason and purpose of establishing this initiative? As you know, that the Pakistan-China Institute has been working on the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor and on China since 2009. And the Sdpi has been engaged with sustainable development and now climate change, environment. And there was this natural synergy of taking a step which talks about Cpec 2022 with the recent Glasgow conference, where China and Pakistan have both made commitments to greening development domestically, as well as outbound investment when it comes to China. And we thought that post Glasgow, this is an opportune time to initiate a dialogue, a discussion, where we can actually identify the next steps that we can do, that we can take, which actually implement the commitments that both the Pakistan government and the Chinese government have made in Pakistan. And this is the first of its kind initiative, ladies and gentlemen, which has all stakeholders. It's not just discussion in a drawing room, but it has the Chinese enterprises who are actually the implementing agents of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. And we are very lucky and fortunate to have them here from the association, which represents the Chinese companies, the vice chairman, the secretary general, and also the companies like China Three Gorges. And of course, Her Excellency, the ambassador of China, who's leading the initiative from the Chinese government side in Pakistan on taking Cpec forward. And we have from the parliament and the government stakeholders, and we are grateful, Senator Mushahid, you are here, and the Climate Change Committee Chairperson, Madam Simi Sd. So, and of course, civil society, think tanks, and honorable members, HBL, and other media from different Chinese and Pakistani organizations. So this is a coalition that we have put together, and we want this to have an action-oriented approach, an outcome-oriented approach, which is not just policy papers and seminars, but actually translates into actual greening of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, as is the wish of a lot of Chinese companies and Pakistani stakeholders. So if you look at China, so far, China has invested $36 billion in energy and $106 billion in transport. So far, the trailblazer in greening, the green development has been China. And I was just seeing Elon Musk's tweet yesterday that just on electric vehicles, China is leading the world in manufacturing of cutting edge electric vehicles. So since we have this project of Cpec already, it makes a lot of sense to sort of start this dialogue and discussion on greening from Cpec rather than starting from scratch. As you know that Cpec is also the flagship project of the Belt and Road Initiative, which has multiple corridors. There's the China-Myanmar Economic Corridor, there's the China-Central Asia Corridor, and then of course, China-Eurasia Corridor, and BCIM, the Bangladesh, China, India, Myanmar Corridor. But since Cpec is the flagship project, which is seen as a model case of cooperation between the two countries and in the BRI, greening Cpec can be a template for other corridors in the BRI as well, where this greening policies, implementation, and transition can then eventually be in all of the BRI, like was discussed in the second BRI forum mentioned by Senator Mushahid Hussain. What are the aims of our alliance? So, as I mentioned, to redirect the investment to carbon footprints which have lower carbon footprints, like the wind power projects which are already in Cpec. There's, as we know, that there's a solar park in Bhakar, which is part of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, and also to attract investment in green projects. So one of the reasons that we have a big galaxy of stakeholders is to actually incentivize investment in green projects. So the tariffs, as my friend Jang Jun has said, that the tariffs of renewable energy projects have to be looked into. Are they as attractive, commercially viable as fossil fuel projects? If not, why not? How can we make it more attractive, more viable, commercially doable and bankable? So, and that is why we also have HBL with us in actually understanding and transitioning our framework, our regulatory framework, to make it more flexible, to make it more accommodating towards renewable energy investments. Because when we talk about renewable energy, while it is definitely very good for the climate and for the environment, it has to be doable, it has to be practical for investors to actually invest money. So that is something that is very important. And our research, which we are actually doing, a flagship research project that Sdpi and PC are doing, are going to be going to be a key research project which will have all stakeholders and a way forward of actually how to implement this. And this will also be launched in the coming months, and we will also invite all of you. And with that, we will also be building the capacity of all stakeholders wherever we see the gaps. And so thank you very much. And I would like to hand over to my colleague Hina for the rest of the presentation.
Thank you so much, Mustafa, for laying out the context. I'll proceed with building on the objectives that we have articulated so far. So as we are building on the knowledge sharing, the capacity building, and advocating the green for greening Cpec, let me share further details on how it's going to be done. So what we have been envisioning to see and what needs to be done is to provide appropriate connections to accelerate green investment opportunities. And also, like already Mustafa has mentioned, in terms of how we can gain experience from the Chinese expertise, with China transitioning to clean energy in the country itself, how we can learn the best practices and successful examples that could be opted for the Pakistan. Also, to ensure that there is a strong inclination in Pakistan in terms of green policies. That's what we are witnessing in recent times, that in the fact that the Pakistan is one of the most top vulnerable country to the impacts. The Pakistan's government is taking measures and developing policies and strategies to transition towards more environmental friendly and climate friendly policies, and to ensure the sustainable development. And also lastly, developing appropriate skills to plan and evaluate green projects. So that this is also something that we would like to focus on. So in 3 to 5 years plan, we are focusing both on national level and international level. So nationally, it's to ensure the opportunities to phase out the unsustainable projects in accordance with the Green Development Guidance for BRI projects. This is the guidance already being developed by Ministry of Ecology and Environment in China, and also accelerate the sustainable projects to provide appropriate support for these. So internationally, we are aiming to work together with not just BRIGC, but the other stakeholders all around the world to share the experiences of this alliance with a broader stakeholder group and to learn from each other. So what is the action plan for this first year that we are focusing on for this presentation particularly? So in terms of advocacy, we are conducting a capacity building workshop tomorrow, which is on green financing guidelines and also RE investments. Some of you have already received the invitation, but we will have a broader group of stakeholders who will be having a further discussion on these two topics, along with the long working group sessions. Then we are also aiming for a high-level conference on how there is a need to switch towards a greener future looks like and how we can learn from China. Then focus group discussions will be taking place in terms of the renewable energy investments in Cpec, especially with the stakeholders, like with the friends we have from Three Gorges and the other enterprises who are primarily investing in renewables in Pakistan. In terms of the more advocacy activities, we are also focusing on conducting public-private dialogue between the private sector and the public sector entities, then how the government policies and plans could optimize and could facilitate more renewable energy investments in Pakistan. So we are also producing some knowledge products along with the process. So we are working on 2 research reports based on the case studies and based on the evidence from the ground. So the one is on how we can go from greening the investments in terms of transition to green projects in Pakistan. And the other is how to do, we are developing the green financing guidelines and framework for Cpec particular. There would be some policy briefs, some policy papers to guide the policymakers in terms of what we are going to conduct tomorrow in the capacity building workshop. So the key takeaways that we will be gathering out of the workshop, then the lessons in terms of how we can move towards greener future, renewable energy investments, and challenges and barriers. These are some of the just key thematics, but the exact focus and the details will be shared and as we go along the process. In terms of the engagements and the networks, I would just like to elaborate on some of the existing networks that we have to facilitate this transition and to support this process that we are aiming to do. So Sdpi has recently launched its Clean Energy Transition Network that has a participation of over 70 stakeholders from public, private, CSOs, academia, and stakeholders even from the international organizations. Then Sdpi has also initiated the formulation of Renewable Energy Parliamentary Caucus that will be launched very soon. Then we already mentioned about Sdpi and PCI being the founding members of Belt and Road Initiative International Green Development Coalition. Also, PCI's engagements with All Pakistan Chinese Enterprises Association, and also the Chinese investors and policymakers for greening alternatives. And same goes for both organizations. So thank you so much for your time and listening to the some of the activities and some of the focused work that we are envisioning for this first year and the plan for the upcoming years. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Hina. And I'd like to invite Senator Simi Sd, the chairperson of the Climate Change Committee, for her closing remarks.
Senator Mushahid Hussain Sayyed, Madam Pang, Acting Ambassador of China to Pakistan, my colleagues on the stage, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you. Actually, it's almost afternoon. I'm very happy and to be here, and I'm really grateful for Sdpi for inviting me here. This is a very important topic. And before we start, I must thank Mr. Mushahid Hussain Sayyed for your kind remarks. I must say Mushahid Sahab is a very important part of our committee, and he brings us with him a very rich experience because he was part of the Climate Change Committee before also. And we always look forward to his cooperation. And Mushahid Sahab, believe me, if it wasn't for your encouragement, we would not have climbed that mountain that we did 5,000 feet below, above sea level. So that was really high. And thank you again for your cooperation and your kind words. Climate change, Pakistan is a country which contributes very little to climate change. It contributes like less than 0.9% to climate change, but it is now it is ranked as the 8th, according to the German Watch, it is ranked as the 8th most affected country in the world by climate change. It was 4% before, but number 4 before in this list. But because of this, the 10 billion tree tsunami and our other projects in the previous PTI government, we have now become number 8 in this list. It is important to note here that we in Pakistan use fossil fuel. It is 60% fossil fuel is used as energy, and we are growing, and it is still growing this percentage. We need to, by 2030, we need to convert to 30% energy mix or zero energy, as they say. We have promised to do that. In the Paris Agreement of 2015, the countries were promised, everyone agreed to this agreement, that they will limit the global warming in their own countries to 2%. At the moment, we are increasing at 3.5%, and it is going up. Now, in this context, it is very important to convert from fossil fuel to renewable energy, to green energy, as they say. And fossil fuel is a depleting natural resource. We have problem of petroleum and gas natural resources. We import LNG, and the cost is becoming very high day by day. We need to convert from coal energy to renewable energy. We have many coal powered projects, and with the help of China, we are very grateful to China for that. We import coal from them, but it is important to note here that in the last government, we scrapped 2 projects, coal power projects, that is one at Muzaffargarh and the other at Rahim Yar Khan. But still we need to work on that. We need to move from coal powered projects to hydro projects, to biogas, to wind and solar energy projects. And I'm very happy to note here that China is helping us in that. China is helping us build the dams, the Basha Dam and many other dams. And then we just heard that 290 megawatts wind energy is working at the moment, and China has helped us in that. I'm very grateful to China for that. Now, at this moment, we have to, the need of the hour is to plan for the future. The planning that we should have done 10 years ago, we need to do now and start today. For this, we look forward to the support of our Chinese friends, and we are very grateful always for their help. It is important to note here that 144 countries have signed this agreement of renewable energy. In Pakistan, we contribute not that much to greenhouse gases, but it is important to note here that brick kilns in Pakistan contribute a lot to this, and we have moved in the brick kilns to zigzag technology, which helps in emitting not the black gases, but the gas that comes out is you can see it is white in color. That means that the greenhouse gases have been reduced in that. Then we are moving to the EVMs, electrical vehicles. And this policy was initiated in the last government. And this is a very important policy. And as we have heard, China is playing a very big part in it. We, at the moment, there are a few companies who are importing these EVs. And we have also, you have maybe take note of it, that in many petrol stations, you can see now charging stations for EVs. And the other day I was there and I had parked my car and I was told to move from there because that was the station for power charging. And I was very happy to see that a car had come and it just stood there for 10 minutes and its battery was charged. This is very important. This is green towards greening of Pakistan energy. And we have a high-level policy development, which is really happening, but we need to work on ground for that. We need to initiate green projects, especially in the BRI, and the coal project should be scrapped out. We have already done that, but this is very difficult to do that because coal projects, people are dependent on there for their livelihoods. In Sindh and Tharpakar and all these areas where coal projects are being initiated, where coal is being taken out, people depend on their livelihoods for that. We have to give them alternate livelihoods to move them away from these projects. Only then we can be successful in them. And then we have to move to the hydro power projects. It is important to note here also that Pakistan, on the one hand, in the mountains, our glaciers are melting because of global warming, and which is causing flooding. And then that also is the result of our seawater, the salty seawater coming into inland. That is affecting our climate and our ecosystem also. We need to restore the ecosystem by these renewable energy projects. And main problem here is also that the people lack awareness here. We need to do awareness programs. We need to tell them about the green projects. We need to move away from plastic. We need to have dialogues and training workshops for them. And we need to do green research in Cpec projects. But for all these, we need green financing. We need green financing for all these projects, and we need to do these campaigns on our social media. Social media is very active these days, and it's a new world, this social media. And if we start a program, a campaign on that, it will really help this green projects. So with this, I won't take much of your time. I'm sorry, I have to go to another meeting. I am very thankful for you, for your help, for being here. I'm thankful to Sdpi for inviting us here. And I look forward to our Pak-China friendship and to our other projects that we hope, and we are positive and very hopeful that China will help us in that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Senator Simi for joining our project of Green Cpec Alliance, and we'll be in touch with you for future endeavors. I would like to invite the Executive Director of the Sdpi, Mr. Abid Suleri for his concluding remarks and the way forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mustafa Sahab. Honored Senator, Honorable Senator Mushahid Hussain Sayyid Sahab, respected Acting Ambassador of China, Madam Pang, representatives of three gorgeous and other distinguished panelists, and my fellow colleagues, Dr. Hina and Mustafa Haider Sayyid, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It's indeed a great pleasure to join hands with the Park China Institute, and a great pleasure to launch this greening of Cpec initiative in Pakistan. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you go back a few years ago, some of the opponents of Cpec, they were bringing two type of accusations against Pakistan-China friendship. One was Cpec would result into a mounting debt, and Pakistan would get defaulted due to these Chinese debt. And second was that Cpec is actually eco-dumping, and the opponents of Pakistan-China friendship and opponents of Cpec, they were accusing that all sort of anti-environmental and then projects, those would be actually initiated under Cpec, and this is how it would proceed. Sitting in 2021, when the world is facing a C crisis, COVID-19, conflict in Ukraine and climate change, today we find that China is one of the countries that actually helped many developing countries in securing themselves from COVID-19, although we still see some sort of vaccine apartheid in the West. But again, it was Sinopharm and Sinovac and many others that helped countries like Pakistan to secure themselves from COVID-19. We have also seen that China is coming up with the alternatives against Western sanctions that are being used indiscriminately, especially the system of SIPs versus SWIFT, and countries like Pakistan, they need to actually remain very eager about exploring such alternatives. And we also found out that China is leading on climate change. And I'll just go back when President Trump, he withdrew America from Paris Declaration and Paris Agreement. And that time world had three propositions. The first proposition was to follow America and simply withdraw from Paris. The second proposition was not to follow America, but try to fill in the gap. And the third proposition was try to find that who can replace America in that commitment, so that this Paris Declaration, it doesn't phase out. And we found that at that time China showed the leadership. And if you remember, after Paris Declaration and after Trump's announcement of withdrawal from Paris Declaration, President Xi in this Belt and Road Summit, he gave the idea of green and clean Belt and Road Initiative. And this is, I would say, one of the sequence that now we have Chinese development partners, we have Chinese embassy, we have Pakistan China Institute, we have stakeholders who are collectively thinking on how to green and how to take the clean and green projects further. And had China got any objection or had China got any intention of eco-dumping, China would not have been part of this initiative, and Madam Pang would not have been sitting here. So this was the longish explanation of where we are and why we actually have this partnership with China and why China is having this partnership with us. Now, going forward, I always say that the initial, the phase one of Cpec, it was developing the hardware. The phase two is talking of software. So in phase one, we got what we wanted to achieve. We had our road infrastructure, we had our power infrastructure, and we also realized that we need to do some of the mid-course correction, both China as well as Pakistan. So there is a moratorium and a ban on expansion of coal projects under Cpec, and even China has a stated policy now not to invest in any new coal-powered plants. So that hardware part is over. Now in the second phase, what Pakistan and China would be jointly trying to achieve is food security, and food security amidst climate change. Only 2 weeks ago, as you know, that Foreign Minister of Pakistan, he was attending this very high-level global food security systems summit in the New York. And this summit was talking of only 2-point agenda. One was that the impact of Russia-Ukraine conflict on food security, global food security, as both Russia and Ukraine, they are the global suppliers of 1/3 of grains, wheat, and of course, edible oil and fertilizer ingredient. But the second was how to ensure food security amidst climate change. And for Pakistan, we need not to go any far to understand that what sort of impact it has. Our wheat crop this year, that has been affected negatively due to unusual heat waves. So not only in Pakistan, but also in India, and that has actually triggered this, coupled with the Ukraine conflict, the crisis of supply of wheat in the world. Because this year in what happened in subcontinent due to unusual heat waves in March and April, the grain, it got matured, it got brown in color, but the contents in grain, the flour content, it couldn't develop it, just like frying something in a very heated oil. So you will find that the external surface is cooked, but inside it's still raw. So the same happened with our wheat this year. The grain is withered, but it got matured, so farmer had to harvest it. And that actually led to wheat security issue in Pakistan. And Pakistan, despite its current account deficit and despite all of its economic meltdown, has to now import 3 million tons of very expensive wheat due to this unusual heat wave. The second one is expecting, unfortunately, that our this crop of mangoes that would get affected by unusual heat waves in March and April. So climate change is affecting our food security. It has already entered in our homeland, and now we have to plan how to ensure food security of the region. But I must also remind you, it's when we talk of Pakistan's food security, we are also talking of Afghanistan's food security. Afghanistan's food security is directly dependent and linked with Pakistan's food security. So we are not talking of 210 or 220 million people. We are talking of more than 250 million inhabitants of this region whose food security is dependent on Pakistan's food security. And that's where I would say that a clean and green Cpec would help in introducing new agricultural technologies. That's where it would help in introducing new seed varieties. That's where it would help in introducing new cultivation and agronomic practices. And all of this is actually part of the phase 2 of Cpec, which we hope that under the very able leadership of our Chinese friend, and under the very able leadership of our legislators like Senator Mushahid Hussain, that would get materialized. But as Hina and Mustafa said, that it's just a beginning. We want a collective wisdom for that. Of course, two organizations which are represented here, they are not the whole epicenter of wisdom. We require collective wisdom, we require suggestions, we require critique, we require your ideas, how to further greener this Cpec, what sort of projects we should propose to the government of Pakistan as well as to the Chinese embassy, so that we can have a cleaner Cpec and we can have a greener and brighter future. Before I conclude formally, I would also like to request you to extend your stay if you can. As you know, 5th of June is World Environment Day. And just after this session concludes, we will be having our World Environment Day event in the same venue with some additional guest speakers. We will have a speaker from UNEP Bangkok, and we will have Ambassador Shafkat Kakakhel joining us, who is the chair, also the chairperson of Board of Governors of Sdpi. And we would have Madam Rumina Khurshid, who is the head of Parliamentary Task Force on Sustainable Development Goals. So if you can extend your stay by an hour and also join us for our World Environment Day celebration, it would be more than honor to host you. And once again, thank you very much for joining us.
Just a quick announcement. Thank you very much for coming and being part of the Greening Cpec initiative. We look forward to engaging with every one of you in the future, with all the institutions present here. And we are very grateful to the Chinese ambassador, Madam Pang, for participating, as well as the China Three Gorges, the All Pakistan China Entrepreneurs Association, and all other partners and stakeholders. And very important announcement that there's also lunch. So those who are hungry, and before the World Environment Day, there's a lunch served in Zamana restaurant downstairs for all the guests. So if you are available, if you have time, please join us for lunch. Thank you.
Interesting to note that whatever has been said about renewable energy and green is the buzzword these days, or for a long time, I should say. But I don't see any talk on biogas. Why is that? Biogas is something which is, I think, very important from the Pakistan's point of view, because this is a project which can reach the far-flung areas. You see, because every other project that you're doing needs infrastructure which requires a lot of expense. This is something which you can put in any far-flung area, and it can provide energy to that area. So I was talking to some of our Chinese friends.
Thank you, ma'am. Actually, most of the scientists nowadays, they are discouraging biogas due to its methane contents. Pakistan is also signatory now in Glasgow for phasing out and reduction in emission of methane gas. That is partly one of the reasons, but even if that content, that summit and packet was not there, I would say that in the past, perhaps governments and many of the private sector, they ignored it because there was this availability of a cheaper fossil fuel. So it could never actually taken off in Pakistan beyond some international development partners funded projects. But nowadays, the reason not to adopt it is because of Pakistan joining this summit for emission of reduction of emission in methane gas. Thank you.
Thank you.